In times of catastrophe, it is often the best course of action to prepare for the worst based on what little information we have. Instead of waiting until we have all the facts, it is often the better option simply to act. French philosopher Albert Camus discusses this in his book The Plague, in which the French-occupied city of Arras is confronted with a deadly plague. For the majority of the story, no one truly knows what this plague is or where it came from. Yet most people still feel a responsibility to do something about it. Camus makes his point clear that, though the world may be absurd and we may not always know what's going on, we still have a responsibility to act. The story begins with Camus explaining how unexceptional the city of Arras is, and how monotonous day-to-day life can be in this city. When suddenly the plague strikes, we see a variety of reactions. Some people think that the plague will be gone within a week. Others believe that death is inevitable. The main character, Dr. Rowe, takes a curious stance about this plague, striving to figure out the truth. Dr. Rowe, being a medical doctor, is tasked with remedying the plague. Many people ask him what this disease is and what is going to come of the city. But the doctor always answers truthfully that he does not know. Soon enough, people start to die. The city leaders know they must act, but they hesitate because they do not want to disrupt the day-to-day rhythm of the city. So they call together all doctors living in Arras, and they discuss what the correct course of action is. Two main arguments are posed here. The first one is that we do not know what this plague is, where it's from, or what effect it will continue to have. Therefore, we cannot take any decisive action, and we definitely cannot take any drastic action that will change the daily rhythm of the city. We can't start closing schools and slowing down business if we don't know for certain what this plague really is. Not only this, but the doctors have observed a difference in the symptoms between this disease and the plague which ravaged Europe centuries ago. Therefore, we know for certain that this disease is not the plague, and therefore should not be treated as such. The second argument is that we do know the nature of this disease, that it is the plague from medieval Europe, and that it will kill thousands if we let it. Therefore, we must take full precautions, assuming the worst and ready to do whatever is necessary to save lives. When Dr. Rowe speaks, he acknowledges that the first argument is true and the second argument is false. But he still advises that we act as if the second argument is true. While it is not true as far as the facts go, the course of action attached to argument number 2 is the only course of action which will save us from suffering more than we have to. While the scientists should still work to discover the true nature of this disease, we must assume the worst and take whatever action we can to help prevent further distress. If we fail to take action or fail to do so quick enough, we will face much more suffering in the long run. These two contrasting arguments stand out because argument 1 is true in that it has its facts straight, but argument 2 is true in that it suggests the only course of action that leads to a good outcome. Argument 1 is based on science and the belief that our scientific models will lead us to prosperity. And this belief is true, but sometimes science falls short. Where science is inconclusive or we lack the information necessary, science fails to lead us to the truth. Dr. Rowe's argument is based on pragmatism and the conviction that where there is obscurity in our knowledge, we can still act so as to reduce the suffering in the world. The city leaders take Dr. Rowe's advice and quarantine the city. The disease ends up killing thousands, but many lives were saved by the actions taken by the city leaders. Throughout the epidemic, Dr. Rowe goes through many emotional struggles. Between the deaths of his friends and being separated from his family, which is locked on the outside of the city in quarantine, Dr. Rowe does not just see the plague as a number of casualties, but he sees it as an emotional reality which he is forced to live through. Throughout the book, when Dr. Rowe talks about fighting the plague, he's not just speaking about reducing the death count, but he's referring to fighting the emotional struggle that he is forced to live through. Dr. Rowe shows us that his response to the plague is twofold. Not only does it fight back against the casualty rate from the plague, but it also fights back against the emotional struggle within himself. As much as Dr. Rowe would like to distance himself from the plague, as much as he would like to sit down and let the plague take its natural course, the only way that he feels that his actions have meaning is by fighting back against the plague and reducing the suffering of those who are in pain. He makes this clear when he says that the only way to fight against the plague is through decency. When asked what he means by decency, he says, "I don't know what it means for everyone, but I know that for myself, it consists in doing my job." When Dr. Rowe proposed that the city leaders take drastic action against the plague, he wasn't just saying it because it would reduce the casualty count. Yes, that is one effect of the actions taken, but Dr. Rowe proposed this because it was the only way he would be able to sleep at night. It was the only course of action that would make him feel like he was doing what was right. And that, as far as Camus is concerned, is the correct response to catastrophe. We see through the actions of Dr. Rowe that what on the outside looks like selfless sacrifice is the result of an emotional battle happening within a man's own heart. While it is clear that Dr. Rowe did want to help people, the deeper reason behind his words and actions is that he wants the peace of mind that comes from knowing he is doing the right thing. His actions are his own striving for self-fulfillment, disguised as charity. He doesn't look at the world around him and try to fix it, but he looks at his own heart and tries to put things right, and that's what makes him a hero. He never acts out of self-righteousness, but out of a conviction that the only way he will find fulfillment in his life is by sacrificing himself to reduce the suffering of others. He too is suffering upon witnessing the deaths of his friends and being separated from his family. But what else can he do other than find fulfillment here and now in his own actions? It would be easier for him to sit down and distance himself from the reality of the situation, but that would only increase his suffering internally. For if he does these things, then he has truly fallen victim to the plague. And so he does his job and helps those around him in any way he can. So we see that in the face of catastrophe, the correct response is to prepare for the worst. And we see through the actions of Dr. Rowe that this does not only fight the physical challenges of the world, but also it fights the internal battles that we face. Camus is not saying that you need to take drastic measures for every small problem in your life. But what he is saying is that when there is a problem that truly causes deep suffering, it is only right that you take heavy precautions, because not only are you fighting to fix a problem in the world, but you are also fighting to find meaning in your own life and your own actions. Camus is also not saying that you shouldn't research the problem when you encounter it, but he is saying that sometimes quick action saves lives, and oftentimes that's all you can do. The plague in this book is a metaphor for the absurdity of life. This absurdity is the potential of finding your own life meaningless. This was a topic which Camus covered often in his works. Camus understood that it is so easy to sit back and let the world happen around us. He also understood that doing so will never lead to a fulfilling life. So he gives us this to ponder. Just as Rowe fought absurdity by doing his job, what then is your job? And what is the plague that you are fighting?